This mutation is called Chain Explosion and it is being played on Chain of Ascension. We have 2 mutators active, we have Lava Burst, and we have Walking Infested. Very easy set of mutators to deal with this week, so this is actually somewhat of an unexpected weekly mutation. I was not really expecting this, so the game cast was going to be a little bit late, so my apologies for that. But yeah, overall really easy. If you are an experienced co-op player, you could probably queue up with a random commander, and I think you'd be fine as well. So, as a result, Encalion has offered up a very interesting play here, and it is going to be one of his typical meme runs. Well, in this case, it is going to be a hero solo with Alarak and Zagara. So, hero solos are generally done with Kerrigan, Yutehaka, sometimes even Phoenix, and usually Nova, because they are actually great heroes. These 2 commanders are not really very good because they require units around them to make themselves effective. So Alarak with his Empower Me, and Alarak with his Ascendants, and Zagara with her Lings and Scourge and Banelings usually get a lot of value when you have units around your hero units, so their abilities are not really very strong. So this is going to be a little bit of an interesting slugfest that'll be going. So while the commanders do get set up, let's have a look at the masteries. We have 30 points into the Alarak attack damage, 30 points into the Deathfleet cooldown, and 30 points into the overcharge. And the reason why Alarak is going for his Deathfleet cooldown is because Alarak is not a very good hero unit in general. So he basically needs to have his Deathfleets available to him as quickly as possible so that he can spam them, and it'll allow him to be able to push a little bit more effectively. Zagara has gone for the Zagara energy regeneration, the Baneling attack damage, and the Roach damage and HP mastery. Now in a regular game, you probably do not want to go for this mastery, you want to go for the Intensified Frenzy, but because again, Zagara requires units to make her Frenzy effective, you might as well go for the Roach damage mastery instead and get some value out of her cooldowns. So this is the reason why those masteries have been selected. Because Zagara has already gotten the Heroic Fortitude upgrade, which will make her a little bit more tanky and a little bit more fatter, so that she does not get blown up into tiny little bits very quickly by the attack waves. And Alarak, again, same idea, he's going to be going for his upgrades. I do not know why he is researching the Warp Gate, because the intent here was to go purely for the hero build. And you can see Zagara has already started to put down a bunch of spine crawlers, and this is one of the things that the commanders will be trying to do, is they'll be going for the static defenses here to try and keep Amon's units off their bases. And you can see the first attack wave. One Baneling Barrage does so much damage and pretty much one-shots this entire attack wave. And this is exactly why I like to go for the Baneling damage mastery instead of the Zergling evasion. Even in regular games, I usually go for the Baneling damage because it makes Zagara so much more effective at being able to handle ground attack waves. Zagara getting harassed a little bit by the Lava Burst, and they want to make sure that Amon, the champion, does not end up booping Janara into the pit of sacrifice. Now, the one thing I want to talk about Lava Burst is that Lava Bursts appear to be spawning randomly, but they're not really random. They do try and favor where your units are pathing to and where your units are actually in position. So even though the Lava Bursts do seem a little bit random, they are not. And you can see here Zagara taking so much damage from the Lava Bursts. Because the other thing I want to talk about Lava Bursts is that the Lava Bursts deal more damage to heroic units than they deal to regular units. So for example, the Hunter Killers, they are not considered heroic units, so they'll be just fine with the Lava Burst. They will take a little bit of damage, but Zagara will just get absolutely melted by a single Lava Burst. So that is one of the things also to take note. The Lava Burst not only will try and favor your army, but if you have a heroic unit, it can cause a few problems as well. We have a Frenzy being dropped here by Zagara, and they just want to try and clear some of these bases and try and clear this enemy camp in this location. So we have a bunch of Hunter Killers that do end up getting timed out. We have an overcharge on the back line, and now the first Hybrid Super Pusher spawn has been created, and it will be up to these commanders to try and deal with this spawn. Now, the one thing to note is that they have spawned this Hybrid Super Pusher a little bit early, which means the big scary attack wave that spawns at around the 7-minute mark will be delayed a little bit, which will give these commanders a little bit of a time to gather their forces and get ready to at least get into position and prepare for this attack wave. So probably Alarak trying to deal with a bunch of cooldown overcharges. And you can see here how quickly Zagara just ends up getting completely melted by the one Lava Burst that spawned underneath her, but Hybrid Behemoth completely unaffected because Amon is a big fat cheater. And while Zagara is respawning now, Alarak is getting into position. The expansion for Alarak has been cleared, so I think he probably may want to try and help out Zagara and try and clear out her base. So I think that is what he wants to do. He's looking at that bunker. Nope, decides not to do that. It's a little bit too risky because there are a bunch of Diamondbacks as well, which may cause a few issues because they will try and kite Alarak back. So we have a bunch of probes now being put forward by Alarak to try and I think help Janara push forward. I think. Just a little bit. Zagara's out now, and we have a bunch of drop overlords. I'm not sure again why that drop overlord has been selected, but we now have also a few more spine crawlers being added to the base, and we have some queens to add a little bit of creep spread, but I don't think this will be very viable. I think probably the queen's best use will be to try and provide the transfuse for some of the static defense here. And you can see again, Baneling Barrage pretty much takes out those two Diamondbacks in one fell swoop, and now we have the two Marines and a missile turret that has ended up killing off one of those drop overlords. But Zagara's expansion now has been cleared and is good to go. Alarak has been focusing a little bit onto this enemy base here, but unfortunately he has gotten focused down in the process by the siege tanks and the bunkers. Just look at how many bunkers there are. It is so frustrating to play up against Darren when you have so many, when you are trying to play the Haka, because all those bunkers just get in the way. Zagara now with her Medusa Spines upgrade as well, and another Baneling Barrage right through the middle, ends up taking out that one bunker and a few more Marines, and now she's getting flanked by a harass wave here, and the Hunter Killers trying to dodge the lava burst. Unfortunately do end up getting one of them getting picked off by one of these lava bursts, and Zagara did end up getting also attacked by some of these lava bursts, but now the next attack wave has spawned. This is going to be the big scary attack wave, and Alarak is going to try and take out this attack wave. Unfortunately, the Marines have the combat shields, which keeps them alive, and now this next destruction wave does end up killing off a large chunk of the Marines at least. Zagara is basically trying to figure out what to do next, and now she uses her roach up. You can see the roaches are a little bit bigger as well as a result of the mastery, and I think this is just going to be focused down onto this hybrid behemoth, and now we have a bunch of Hunter Killers as well on the back line, and they should be okay as well. The Hunter Killers unfortunately do end up timing out very quickly, and the Frenzy not very strong for Zagara, but Alarak has ended up clearing out this big attack wave. So now all that is left is to try and deal with these last hybrids. So there are two hybrids left. They're only the small hybrid destroyers, so they're not really too difficult to deal with, but they will have to be dealt with at some point. Zagara now putting down a lot of spine crawlers. We are dealing with a Terran composition, which means that at some point they are going to start nuking you, and this might be a problem because the spine crawlers are all very, very close to each other, and that is all very bad. So Alarak, some of the Infested decide to try and give Alarak a little bit of attitude. Alarak is having none of it, and now he is going to be pushing into these two hybrid destroyers. So this should be reasonably easy for him to deal with, especially with the combined medevacs here. These medevacs are actually healing the hybrid. This is so trolly right now. It's actually really, really funny. Zagara ends up whiffing on her Baneling Barrage, which is somewhat unfortunate because these medevacs are still completely trolling these two commanders by healing this hybrid. This hybrid had way more HP than it would normally have, just because of those medevacs. The medevacs are even healing the infested Terrans right now, but finally these medevacs end up going down, and Janara a little bit too close to the pit, a little bit too close for comfort, but we have a bunch of probes that have provided a little bit more support for these commanders. Alarak on this side has come on full def, and he's put down a lot of photon cannons, and this is one of the things these commanders want to do, is they just want to go and try and put down as much static defense as possible because of things like this. We have a bunch of spine crawlers as well. These infested Terrans are interfering in the construction process, but we have a bunch of queens as well, and these transfuses are going to be okay. Both these commanders now are taking their positions here. I think Zagara is waiting for her roach drop, 20 seconds left, and I think these commanders will probably want to push into this enemy base now. This is a full-fledged base as well. It has a lot of defenses, lots of Diamondbacks, lots of siege tanks, lots of bunkers. I think there might even be a couple of battle cruisers in this area. Let's make it a little more difficult. We do have a bunch of probes here that have dropped down a photon overcharge. This photon overcharge will try and kill off this elemental. So yeah, Alarak gets completely focused down by a bunch of Seeker missiles and siege tanks and marauders and bunkers, and now there are a bunch of battlecruisers as well that are going to be spamming their Yamato cannons right onto these destroyers. These destroyers are not going to last too long. Zagara tries to get out of the way, unfortunately gets completely picked off by the Marauder and the Diamondbacks as well as she's running away. All that is left is the photon overcharge from the back line here, and a mothership and one destroyer. The rest of Alarak definitely have gotten completely wiped by the Raven Seeker missiles and the siege tanks and the Thors and all the other junk here that has that sits in Amon's base, so I think this should be okay. Most of this base now has been weakened, so the next pushing wave by the commanders will end up killing off the rest of the enemy defenders. So this mothership has actually done its job. There is just a lot of infested here. They will be walking into the range of this overcharge, and this overcharge will end up killing off whatever is left. So now we have Alarak spawning, and Zagara is not too far behind, and Alarak now will be making his way towards the middle of the map to try and deal with this next issue that they will be having to face, which is to clear up the Banshees and the siege tanks. So again, not really too much of a problem. This is pretty much okay. This Diamondback is going to start kiting Alarak as soon as he starts to attack, and there's now a 12th Banshee as well. Fortunately, these Banshees, there's no detection just yet for Alarak, and now we have a bunch of 100 killers from Zagara, so these will be able to clean up these Banshees. And now we have an attack wave coming up from the northern side, which these commanders will have to address. And now we also have a nuke. Is there going to be a nuke that will be dropping? I think this command is a little bit close. Yeah, so Zagara is going to try Baling Barrage, but Alarak steals Zagara and ends up saving that from that ghost from a very painful, horrible death, which is death by acid. So Alarak has done his good deed of the day, and now we have an attack wave that's coming up. Bunch of siege tanks, not really too much of a problem for Alarak to deal with, especially these Marines getting thrown right into the middle of a bunch of spine crawlers and queens, and now we have a nuke coming down as well. A very lucky Baling Barrage here from Zagara ends up killing off that ghost that was dropping the nuke, and I think all that is left is, yeah, all these infested Terrans, which is getting cleaned up right now, but unfortunately there is a harass wave now that has come up from Aeon's champion, and the harass wave is going to start pushing Janara back, but there is a photon overcharge onto these pylons. Unfortunately, these stimmed Marines and Marauders actually have a very high damage output, so they end up killing off that pylon even with his shield without too many problems. And I like how there's a ghost that's sniping these larvae. These larvae did nothing wrong, but unfortunately that ghost is continuing to snipe those units out. Is there any kind of detection? Okay, there we go. Now there's some detection here. There's an overseer that gets moved into position. The ghost ends up getting picked off, and now Alarak and Zagara are in position to try and push Janara forward. I think that Elemental has also been killed off by an overcharge, and now we have, again, just take a look at how effective these Baling Barrages can be if you target it right into the middle of the attack wave. Pretty much the whole attack wave just got killed off by that. And yeah, this is why Baling damage is really effective. Alarak getting a little bit too excited, wants to try and kill off this missile turret right now. And Zagara a little bit too close to the lava burst, taking so much damage, but the heroic fortitude upgrade is very, very important. And now I think the next hybrid super pusher spawn will be created because these commanders are in position. Yeah, the overseer is going to be moving forward. Hybrid super pusher spawn has been created, and attack wave now has spawned on the southern side of this map. So we'll see how these commanders will go and deal with it. Alarak, I think, wants to go and deal with the attack wave, and I think Zagara will probably try and deal with the hybrid super pusher. So Alarak should really not have too many problems. He has an overcharge available to him as well, and Zagara now is going to be trying to poke in. She drops a hunter killer, drops down her roach drop, uses whatever weak frenzy that she has, but unfortunately this attack wave is really, really nasty. The siege tanks have sieged up, so as soon as the roach drop gets dropped, they get completely wrecked by those siege tanks. Alarak having absolutely no problems handling this attack wave with its destruction waves and pushing units back. Unfortunately, Zagara having a little bit more problems right now, so she drags it into Alarak's cannons to try and provide her with a little bit more damage output here. Nice Baling Barrage right in the middle does end up catching out that hybrid destroyer, weakening it. But again, there are a few more problems for her to deal with. Alarak has just finished cleaning up the attack wave on the northern side, so now Zagara is getting ready to try and push. And there are still a lot of hybrids here, and I think there's still a bunch of siege tanks that are sieged up on the back line. You can see them over here, and we have, especially combined with these signs, look at that hybrid. Hybrid Behemoth combined with Science Vessel Barrier is just absolutely insane. And now we have Alarak as well joining into the fray here with his Empower Me. We have a nuke on here, and we are not going to care about the hybrids because watching the nukes is so much more fun. And there we go, we have a nuke that gets landed onto Zagara's base. And in the meanwhile, the commanders have cleared out everything else here because Alarak with his Empower Me is absolutely insane at dealing with clumped up units. He just does so much splash damage, and a very, very effective way of handling, especially when you have just a very limited supply of resources, like just a couple of commanders that don't really do very much. So having Alarak with his Empower Me does help in dealing with these clumped up areas. So now these commanders are going to try and clear the rest of this base. And you might be wondering, why are they doing that? And the reason is because in, I think, the 22-minute mark or something, there's a certain point in the mission, I can't remember where. Check out StarCraft2Co-op.com, your #1 source of StarCraft 2 Co-op information. There is a timing where 2 attack waves will start to spawn and they will start giving you multi-pronged attacks. And this can be very problematic for commanders, especially when you don't really have an army and you're basically playing around with 2 units. It's not very practical to try and deal with multi-pronged attack waves. So what you can do is you can clear out enemy bases here, and if Amon doesn't have vision on the southern side, the southern attack wave will start to spawn in the middle of the map over here. And likewise the same idea for the northern side. If you clear out the enemy bases here, here, and I think here, then what happens is Amon loses vision of that area, and therefore his attack waves will start to spawn in the southern, in this middle area here, which makes it a little bit easier to deal with, because you have attack waves funneling right down the middle, along with the escort waves as well. All your commanders have to do is be on that lane, which makes it so much easier to play this mission, especially because you know you're not going to be able to complete this mission before the double pronged attack wave timing. So that is why these commanders are doing what they are doing. They have cleared up the southern side, so all now the attack waves will either spawn on the northern side or on the middle lane, which is a little bit easier to handle rather than having to deal with all 3 lanes at the same time. The ideal situation would be to try and clear out this side as well, but these commanders are being very, very taxed in terms of their defensive abilities and as well as their aggressive abilities. We see lots of cannons being put down here for Alarak, and these commanders are doing reasonably well. There are just lots of spine crawlers, and now these commanders want to try and push in. Unfortunately, Alarak tries to get out of the way there. He does end up getting picked up by those Stim Marines. Now Zagara, combined with a Roach Drop, I'm going to try and push into this final enemy base here. I do not know if Alarak wants to use his mothership just yet. He might actually be able to do it before the next hybrid super pusher spawn, because the next hybrid spawn is, I think, 30 minutes. So it is going to be a while. So the mothership does get dropped with a death fleet, and there are a bunch of battlecruisers that end up focusing down all those destroyers. Only 1 or maybe 2 end up surviving, but lots of Thors, lots of battlecruisers here, and these battlecruisers are going to be causing so many problems for these commanders. And now I think maybe about 50% of the strength of that base has been weakened, but again, you're going to need to have a little bit more if they want to be able to complete this mission. There is an attack wave now that has made its way near the northern side, and Zagara is already in position to try and get into this area, and you can just see the power of that Baling Barrage. That Baling Barrage has ended up wiping out that area here, and now we have a nuke, and these queens are body blocking each other. They're like, get out of the way, you fat person. I do not want to get hit by the nuke, and this nuke is going to end up wiping out Zagara's bunch of spine crawlers. Alarak already in position here to deal with the next chunk of this attack wave. Few infested Terrans as well here, but not anything Alarak cannot handle. And now Zagara is getting attacked in the middle by the middle lane. You can see lots of siege tanks over here, lots of marines stimmed with marauders as well, and just see the damage output here for Amon's army. These stimmed marines has been a change that has been recently introduced to co-op, I think only 6 months maybe? And just the damage output is just insane. These marines are absolutely terrifying now with the combat shields and their stim and siege tanks on the back line, just shelling away at all the static defense, and that is Zagara's Spore Crawler getting picked up. So Zagara has no detection on this side right now, and these siege tanks are not done, and they want to try and attack Alarak's base as well, and I don't know if they are actually in range yet. They're going to start shelling away at these photon cannons, and now we have another attack wave as well that has combined with the escort wave, and lots of probes over here just getting completely focused down by a large number of these siege tanks and marines as well. There's a photon overcharge to try and keep these alive. Probes join into the fight right now. These probes are not afraid, and they end up killing off the siege tank. There is a nuke as well, but that goes 500 IQ right next to the photon cannons and ends up getting killed, and Zagara's road drop now is able to clean up the rest of this attack wave and harass wave. I think Alarak and Zagara now are back, so they should be able to help out each other and get this game back under control. It was a little bit too close for comfort, but all in all, it has been well handled. And now we have, you can see here, this is exactly what I was talking about, a double-pronged attack wave. So one attack wave has spawned near the northern side because Amon has detection on this side. This attack wave has spawned near the middle, basically because Amon has no detection of this area. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier. And now we have Zagara trying to push in, and again, very nice mailing barrage here. Alarak getting ready to engage this attack wave, uses his death lead right now to try and provide a little bit more damage output, and this battle cruiser going full ham with its Yamato cannons ends up getting focused down by Alarak and co. And now we have a bunch of science vessels here and a SCV that is repairing the one siege tank, but again, those are no match for Alarak's army. Zagara in position here, and she has no problem. She's getting cuddled by a bunch of probes. These probes love Zagara, giving a bunch of kisses and hearts to Zagara right now. And Zagara is basically killing off everything else from Amon's army. And now we have, again, you can see here there's another lava burst that's coming up, that's trying to hit that mothership. Alarak has ended up clearing out the siege tank, which has survived a little bit longer because of the science vessel. Now I think Alarak will probably be getting into position. Again, another attack wave here, but again, this is an escort wave. Again, one Baneling Barrage pretty much one-shots everything here. There might be a bunch of siege tanks. These siege tanks, again, easy pickings for Zagara's hunter killers. And now these commanders are going to start pushing forward. They are getting a little bit too close. I think the 30-minute mark is where the hybrid super pusher spawn will start to push Amon's champion forward, and this might be a problem because this base hasn't really completely been cleared out and the mothership is not ready yet. The cooldowns for Zagara are okay, but that next area is going to be absolutely insane. There are a lot of enemy units here, especially with stim marines. It's very, very difficult to deal with. We have a bunch of marines here, overcharge as well to try and stem the escort wave, and I think this area has been cleaned up. This next there is another nuke here in position. Unfortunately, there is no detection. Actually, there was detection. I'm not sure why it was not picked up. And another bunch of nuke ends up hitting Zagara's base. And now, these commanders are going to slowly start pushing. Alarak cannot be lost here when he does this engage, because if Alarak gets lost, then you do not have access to the empowerment, and you probably end up losing this mission because Janara's champion is already getting pushed back very, very quickly. Especially at the 31-minute mark, Janara moves back very fast. So these commanders do not actually have a lot of time before they have to start clearing out this. I think Alarak is waiting for his death fleet, so it's still another 30 seconds before that comes up. And this might be a little bit of crunch time for these commanders, so they end up clearing out this. They are putting down some of the pylons here to try and provide some overcharges as well. And Alarak will have to be very wise and very careful with how he chooses to use his overcharges, because he does not really have access to that much damage output. So Alarak is getting ready as well, uses a destruction wave just to push Amon's champion, or Amon's units back a little bit. But the destruction wave also kills off some more of these marines, and now Alarak is ready to jump in. Zagara drops down her roach drop. There is a frenzy, and Alarak uses an empowerment and ends up dropping a mothership as well, and this is going to buff Alarak to absolutely insane levels. One destruction wave will go down and pretty much one-shot everything that is there, and just see the damage output here from Alarak. And this is why Alarak's empowerment is so useful, and this is why having a maxed out army is also very important. Very nice timing there for the commanders. So getting the roach drop with the mothership was basically what allowed Alarak to buff himself up to absolutely insane levels. Janara getting a little bit too close to the pit of sacrifice. There is still a nuke here and no response here for Alarak, and a lot of those probes do end up getting killed off as well as a result of that nuke. Press F for those probes, and now Alarak is ready to try and deal with this next. Again, Zagara plus Alarak, they will be fine here to deal with these small harass waves. I think this mission is pretty much done now. It is just a matter of pushing Janara into, or pushing Amon's champion into the pit of sacrifice. We have now a bunch of, I think maybe a potential attack wave that has spawned. Or this is just, yeah, this is basically an attack wave. So it'll be a little bit larger, a little bit more scary. You can see this Baneling Barrage doesn't really get through the line of marines here. But all in all, this is pretty much handled by these commanders. There's a bunch of medevacs here that are being a little bit annoying for Alarak, because they do end up pausing Janara from pushing forward. A few more enemy units as well. But this has been pretty much well handled by these commanders. Alarak has 809 kills, Zagara with 1,400 kills. But remember that the walking infested also do counts for the kill counts. So Zagara just getting so much value for kill counts there. And let's have a look at the units lost, because this is just basically a matter of just pushing Janara forward. So we have 31 pylons killed, 13 photon cannons, and 89 probes with 26 destroyers and 4 Alaraks killed. For Zagara, we have 37 or 38 spine followers right now because there is an attack wave that is starting to harass Zagara's expansion. Lots of drones going down as well, and 92 of these roaches, 21 queens and 48 hunter killers getting killed, with 2 Zagaras also getting killed off. So we have another roach drop here. These commanders just want to try and push Amon's champion to this bit of sacrifice and end the suffering, end their suffering. But unfortunately, these medevacs are also being a little bit annoying by stopping Amon's champion from being pushed forward. So it is also an issue there. So again, now these bunch of queens are just trying to defend. These queens provide absolutely no damage output, especially when there is a barrier as well onto this battlecruiser. But that is basically it. This is Amon's champion going to get pushed into the pit of sacrifice, and this was an absolute slugfest. 36-minute game. At the end, Janara is triumphant, and that is GG.